Imagine you are holding two things in your hands. In your left hand, a stack of $100 bills. In your right hand, a single, heavy bar of solid gold. For the last 50 years, the world has been told that the paper in your left hand is the most valuable asset on earth. We were told that the gold in your right hand was a barbarous relic of the past, something useless that belonged in a museum. But right now, in the quiet vaults of central banks from Moscow to Beijing and Riyadh, the experts are making a very different choice. They are dumping the paper and they are grabbing the gold as fast as they can. The question is not whether the price of gold is going up. The question is, what happens to your life when the BRICS nations officially launch a currency backed by physical commodities and the US dollar is suddenly revealed to be nothing more than ink on paper? I am Professor Jiang Miller. Today we are going to look at the new BRICS payment system. We are going to look at the massive gold hoarding of the global south. And I'm going to explain exactly how the return of, quote, real money is a mathematical death sentence for the American middle class. I will break this down step by step in plain, simple English. Part 1. The Great Paper Deception. To understand the trap we are in today, you have to understand what the US dollar actually is. Since 1971, the dollar has been a fiat currency. That is a fancy Latin word that means by decree. The dollar has value only because the government says it does. It is not backed by gold. It is not backed by silver. It is backed only by trust in the United States government. For decades, that trust was enough. But as I explained in previous breakdowns, the United States has run up a $39 trillion debt. Washington has printed so much money that the trust is evaporating. The BRICS nations have realized that they cannot build a stable future on a currency that can be printed out of thin air by a foreign central bank. They want to return to something that cannot be printed, something that has been recognized as value for 5,000 years. Part 2. The silent gold rush. This brings us to what the mainstream media is completely failing to report. They talk about stock market rallies and tech IPOs, but they are ignoring the single most important financial movement of the century, the silent gold rush. In the last 24 months, central banks across the world have purchased more physical gold than at any time since the 1960s. But look closely at who is buying. It is not the United States or Western Europe. It is China. It is India. It is Turkey. It is Poland and Singapore. China has been adding to its gold reserves for 18 consecutive months. Why? Because they are preparing for the nuclear option in the financial war. They are preparing to launch a new trade currency, often referred to as the unit, that will be partially or fully backed by a basket of commodities, with gold as the anchor. When this happens, the global trade system splits in two. On one side, you have the BRICS system, backed by physical reality. On the other side, you have the Western system, backed by $39 trillion of debt. Part 3. The fatal domino effect. Now I want you to pay close attention, because this is the exact sequence of events that will occur when the gold-backed BRICS currency is officially announced. It is a domino effect that will reset the global economy in a matter of weeks. Step 1. The BRICS nations announce that all future trades for oil, gas, and minerals within their bloc must be settled in their new gold-linked currency, or in physical gold itself. Step 2. Foreign nations that currently hold trillions of US dollars in their reserves realize those dollars are now useless for buying the most important resources on Earth. Step 3. To get the gold they need for trade, these nations begin selling their US Treasury bonds and their US dollars simultaneously. This creates a global sell-off of the American currency. Step 4. As trillions of dollars flood back into the United States from overseas, the supply of dollars at home explodes. This is the definition of hyperinflation. When everyone wants to get rid of dollars at the same time, the value of the money in your bank account vanishes. Step 5. The price of physical gold, silver, and other hard assets in the United States skyrockets. We are not talking about gold at $2,000 or $3,000. We are talking about gold at $10,000 or more as the dollar loses its purchasing power. Step 6. The final domino. The American middle class, which has its wealth tied up in digital digits, bank accounts, and paper stocks, realizes they have been holding the paper illusion while the rest of the world moved to the gold reality. Their life savings are effectively liquidated to pay for the transition to the new world order. Part 4. Why you cannot buy gold at the grocery store. Many people ask, if gold is the future, why can't I just buy a gold coin and be safe? But the trap is deeper than that. As the dollar collapses, the government will not make it easy for you to exit the system. As we discussed in video 6, the push for a digital dollar or CBDC is designed specifically to keep you trapped in the paper system. The government wants you to stay in their digital digits so they can continue to inflate away your wealth to pay their $39 trillion debt. They do not want you owning physical gold or silver, because physical assets are outside of their control. They cannot program a gold coin. They cannot turn off a silver bar. This is why the mainstream media and the big banks continue to tell you that gold is a bad investment. They want to keep the public in the paper illusion for as long as possible, until the BRICS nations pull the rug out from under the entire Western financial system. Part 5. The Echo of History. People think the US dollar will always be the world's reserve currency because it is too big to fail. But history tells us a very different, very brutal story. Look at the Bretton Woods Agreement of 1944. At the end of World War II, the world agreed that the US dollar would be the global reserve currency, but on one condition: it had to be backed by gold at $35 an ounce. For 25 years, the world trusted the dollar because they knew they could always trade it for gold. But in the 1960s, America spent too much money on wars and social programs. Foreign nations led by France realized the US was printing more dollars than it had gold. They started demanding their gold back. On August 15, 1971, President Richard Nixon was forced to close the gold window. He told the world that the dollar was no longer backed by anything. That was the day the paper illusion officially began. Today, we are at the end of that 50-year experiment. The BRICS nations are simply doing what France did in 1971. They are calling the American bluff. They are demanding a return to reality, and the United States has nothing left but debt. The chessboard has been reset. The return to a gold-backed global trade system is not a theory. It is a mathematical necessity for the nations that are tired of American financial dominance. The mainstream media will continue to show you charts of the stock market and talk about soft landings, ignoring the fact that the foundations of the paper world are turning to dust. The goal of this analysis is to give you the clarity that Washington refuses to provide. You must understand that in a war between paper and gold, gold has never lost in 5,000 years of human history. You need to prepare your finances right now. You need to understand the difference between currency and money. You need to move your wealth into assets that have intrinsic, physical value before the paper trap finally closes. If you want to understand the real truth behind the headlines, and if you want clear, simple breakdowns of the events shaping our global economy, subscribe to the channel right now. And I want to ask you a question. If the BRICS nations launch their gold-backed currency tomorrow, do you believe the United States will try to return to the gold standard? Or will they force the American public into a purely digital system to maintain control? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read them all. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next breakdown.